Welcome back to Inside Intelligence, the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. I'm Neil Bisson, the Director of Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. And today we're delving into the intriguing world of espionage and intelligence operations. In this episode, we'll uncover a clandestine technique that's been used throughout history, ghouling. Join me as we unravel the mysteries surrounding this practice, exploring its origins, methods, and its impact on the world of intelligence. Espionage and intelligence operations have always been shrouded in mystery, employing various covert tactics and methods to gain information. One such method that has often been utilized, albeit discreetly, is known as ghouling. So what is ghouling? Ghouling in the context of intelligence and espionage refers to the practice of extracting information from individuals deceased or utilizing their identities for covert operation. It involves exploiting the personal details, networks, and reputations of the deceased to further intelligence objectives. Many spies are required to work deep undercover in foreign countries, depending upon their identity, which is a name and a place of birth, that will not arouse any form of suspicion or attention. Just like the mythical macabre creatures who sustain themselves off the remains of the dead, spies search for victims of identity theft to sustain themselves by forging a new life. Ghouling can be performed in various ways, but the most direct and well-known is when an intelligence officer or spy goes to a cemetery and walks around to identify an individual who has passed on. Once the tombstone data is acquired, the intelligence officer or spy then uses this information as a foundation for their cover or legend. Typically using the information of a deceased infant or small child is prized over that of an individual who lived for several decades. The reason being, a deceased infant or child is less likely to have made numerous or substantial relationships with others, and the assumption of the identity by the intelligence officer or spy will be under less scrutiny. Although strolling through the graves isn't the only way to be a ghoul, acquiring access to religious records, such as baptisms, confirmation, or hospital records, such as the birth certificate or records, can be utilized as a starting point for an intelligence officer or spy to build their false identity. More recently, identity theft has become a big business on the dark web, and it is unlikely that intelligence organizations wouldn't take advantage of this plethora of potential personas. A brief history of ghouling. The origins of ghouling can be traced back to ancient civilizations, where spies would assume the identity of the deceased to gather sensitive information or infiltrate enemy territories. For instance, in ancient Egypt, it was common for spies to pose as mourners or embalmers during funeral rituals to glean valuable insights about the deceased and their connections. During the Middle Ages, ghouling found a place within the intelligence practices of various nations. In feudal Europe, spies employed the strategy of assuming the identities of deceased nobles or prominent figures to gather intelligence or gain access to privileged information. These impersonations were often conducted by skilled actors who could convincingly imitate the deceased individuals. The modern development of ghouling as an espionage technique can be attributed to advances in forensic science and the rise of organized intelligence agencies. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, intelligence organizations started to exploit the identities of the deceased, primarily for creating new undercover agents. During Operation Lavender Mist, British intelligence agents utilized the identities of fallen soldiers to infiltrate enemy lines and gather critical information. This early operation demonstrated just how effective ghouling could be for espionage purposes. Operation Mincemeat, which occurred during World War II. The use of tombstone data in creating a legend for a living spy isn't the only example of ghouling. In 1943, during Operation Mincemeat, British intelligence devised a plan to mislead the Axis powers about the Allied invasion of Sicily. They acquired the body of a deceased man named Gilder Michael. The body was dressed as a Royal Marines officer, Major William Martin, and equipped with false intelligence documents indicating an imminent Allied attack on Greece instead of Sicily. The body, along with the false information, was released into the sea, where it was eventually discovered by Spanish authorities and passed on to German intelligence. The operation successfully deceived the Axis forces and played a significant role in the subsequent Allied invasion's success. During the Cold War, ghouling became increasingly sophisticated and pervasive. Both the Soviet Union and the United States extensively employed these techniques to recruit spies and conduct covert operations. Intelligence agencies would create new identities using the personal details of deceased individuals, often altering slightly to avoid suspicion. The Soviets' illegal program. The Soviet Union had a long history of utilizing deceased identities for espionage purposes. One case of ghouling involved the Soviet illegals program during the Cold War. The program employed undercover agents who assumed the identities of deceased individuals, often children, who died at an early age. These agents infiltrated Western society, established new lives, and gathered intelligence for the Soviet intelligence agencies. Notable examples include the case of Rudolf Abel, also known as William August Fisher, a Soviet spy operating in the United States, who assumed the identity of a deceased Canadian artist. Another example is Jack Barsky, a former Soviet spy who revealed his story after living undercover in the United States during the Cold War. Barsky assumed the identity of a deceased American child named Timothy Barnes, who died in early childhood. Under this false identity, Barsky integrated into American society and worked as a KGB spy, gathering intelligence for the Soviet Union. With the advent of modern technologies such as DNA analysis and computer databases, Ghouling became more refined. Intelligence agencies could forge comprehensive profiles of deceased individuals, including their backgrounds, associations, and even physical appearances. This enabled spies to convincingly assume their identities, making detection considerably more challenging. The intelligence exploitation of terrorist identities. Intelligence agencies have occasionally exploited the identities of deceased terrorists for operational purposes. By assuming the identities of deceased militants, intelligence operatives can infiltrate terrorist networks or gain valuable insights into their operations. While specific cases may not be publicly disclosed, such practices have been reported in the context of counterterrorism efforts. Terrorists and terrorist organizations have also utilized Ghouling. Specifically, Richard Reed, a British citizen who attempted to detonate explosives hidden in his shoes on a transatlantic flight in December of 2001, had assumed a false identity. Reed had obtained a fraudulent British passport in the name of Richard T. Colvin, a deceased child, which he used to travel. Contemporary applications. In recent years, technological advancements have shaped the evolution of Ghouling. Artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms have facilitated the creation of highly realistic digital personas based on deceased individuals, amplifying the possibilities for covert operations. Stolen identities in cyberspace espionage. In the realm of cyber espionage, stolen identities, including those of deceased individuals, have been used to facilitate covert operations. Hackers and state-sponsored cyber groups have been known to create fake online personas based on deceased individuals to deceive targets and gain access to sensitive information. While specific examples may not be readily available, numerous reports have highlighted the use of such tactics in cyber espionage activities. Ethical and legal considerations. The practice of Ghouling raises ethical and legal concerns. Impersonating deceased individuals infringes upon their privacy and can cause distress to their families. Furthermore, it can potentially undermine public trust and confidence in intelligence agencies if exposed. Consequently, many countries have and will continue to implement stringent regulations and oversight and to ensure responsible use of Ghouling techniques. Ghouling as a practice rooted in ancient times has evolved and adapted alongside advancements in intelligence techniques and technologies. From ancient civilizations to the modern era, the exploitation of deceased identities has been an enduring tool in the espionage and intelligence world. Despite the ethical and legal challenges that Ghouling presents, it remains an integral part of covert operations. That concludes our deep dive into the world of Ghouling and its utilization in intelligence operations. We've explored its historical roots, its evolution through the ages, and its modern-day applications in the realm of cyber espionage. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Inside Intelligence, the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network, for more intriguing insights into the world of intelligence. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll continue to unravel the secrets of the intelligence world. But until then, I'm your host in the world of intelligence and espionage, reminding you to stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.